Sorry for that. Y'all have, excuse me, y'all have that fancy cookie. Let me find this phone.
Greetings. This is a special segment of Run Tell That, and we're going to be apologetic. You all know our journal going to try to apologize, so I try to make sure we're on point. So we got to apologize again, start a little later than what we had planned, and this is a very important issue that some people don't understand the magnitude, but the people who hear, they do understand the magnitude. And who are with me, so we're going to have a conversation. This is about black land and black communities. We have from South Carolina, from Bluffton, South Carolina, our councilwoman, Bridget Frazier, one of our heroes. We have her right here. And then also we have someone who's with regards to reparations. So we said, man, it's connected to reparations. We have Randy Quarterman, who is from the Reparation Project, and that's the Quarterman Keller Reparation Project. Also sitting in with us, we have Dr. Robert Bryant, and also President Judy Shaw of Our Black Media. So now, but we want to do this right here. The people who are here, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and why is land important? Why is land and why is property important? And this is being shared, what you all know. It's shared on Facebook, Our Black Media Network, and on YouTube, on the Our Black Media YouTube channel. So we say share, because this is an important conversation. I want to let you all know this. This is part one of a three-part conversation. Next week, we're going to have Brother BJ Dennis from Keita Akins also, and we're going to culminate it with Queen Quinn. So let y'all know, this is not important. We think this is, but this is the initial conversation about some resources. So we start our council with why is land important? And who are you and why is land important?
Certainly. Well, thank you, Dr. Torre, for including me in this very, very important conversation. So I am Bridget Frazier. I am on City Council in the amazing city of Bluffton, South Carolina. We call ourselves the heart of the little country. I am a fifth-generation Gullah descendant in Bluffton, South Carolina, and also the founder of the soon-to-come Bluffton Gullah Cultural Heritage Center. And so land protection to me is so vital because you don't have culture without being able to have the presence. And that presence starts with land ownership and land acquisition. It's through those means that we have been able to amass generational wealth, but also it's through those means that we've been able to keep the culture going because you can have that presence by being able to pass land down. If you don't have land to pass down, then you feel yourself falling victim to gentrification and overdevelopment, then that means the erasure too of your family's presence in that area. So now is the time more than ever to be able to hold and protect that because we do want to have something that future generations can come back and be able to say that they feel they belong and that their people, were there as well.
Okay. Robert Bryan, since we're here, which is for you and wise land, wise neighborhood, wise community important.
Right. So Dr. Robert Bryant, running for the 5th District City Council here in the municipality of Savannah. And I've done a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work over my career. And you know, as Councilwoman Bridget was speaking, I was thinking not only about the what we see, but the symbolism and the sacredness of land that is water. We know that Native American culture is really tied to the land. It's not just a piece of dirt we walk over. It carries stories. It carries memories. It carries culture, as Bridget said. And so when we understand and we honor land, the earth in which we stand upon, it's the ancestors that have built that. And I think a lot of time when we disregard that space, right, we lose the support, the love, and the teachings that we should have known better. And we lose that when we disagree with that. I was in church today, and the pastor was talking about a lot of black people, we forget who raised us. And I think that's a great system. Yeah, we forget who raised us. Not necessarily parents and all that, but who is your creator? How do you identify in that space? So not just the investment part of it all. It's just sometimes, how do you honor the space in which you were developed? And that's extremely important because that ties us to the ancestors and things that have come before us.
Mm-hmm.
And Brother Randy Ford.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this great forum of great people. My name is Randy Quarterman. I'm the 5th generation of the enslaved Zeke Quarterman that was from Monteith, Georgia. That was enslaved by the Keller family here in Savannah, Georgia. I'm a co-founder of the Quarterman Keller Foundation, which with the Keller we started. Our first initiative is the Reparation Project. We are into truth telling, we are into healing, interpersonal relationships as far as reparation healing, but we also address black land loss, land preservation, black education, and black art. Why is the land important to me? Myself, we have 10 acres that was given by the Keller back in once the Civil War was ended. We're battling the Harris property case right now, but at the same time, the pride of holding on to a land like that, because we do end up having the stigma of the census of 1860. That's where our threshold is of history. We know we was enslaved, but where we come from, usually stops at 1860. But to have land that you knew that was from that time, it builds a sense of pride. Also done correctly with financial literacy, it can close the racial wealth gap. So holding on to our land to ensure that we can close this gap, we can thrive in America is very important. I think now is the time to really have these conversations because these younger generations are so far advanced than what we were and have the information that if we keep this legacy going, I believe we could surpass or catch up to European nations that held us down so long.
All right. So, Julius Hall, since you are here, why is community ownership important? Why is black community ownership important? And what's the impact of black community ownership?
I can give you a different question.
We're still tied to land. It's the same thing, but now I'm looking on. Well, you out of West Savannah. So.
And that's what I was doing there. Well, I'm Julius Hall, and I'm president of our Black Media. And I think it's important that we, as a platform, because we're the only ones in this community doing what we're doing. And I think it's important that we inform the people. There's 170-something properties for sale this past week at the courthouse. I would guess it would probably be high 70 to 75% of those were in African American communities. They take our land if we don't sell it to them. And we get tied up with heirs property, we get tied up with people having their properties derelict and not being conscious enough to go and pay their taxes. So all these things fall back and they take our land.
And we wondering how these people, and I can talk about this for days because I lost over $10,000 renovating a house, and the judge told us to go in, told us to get out of the house. It was an heirs property of my wife. We were renovating the property. They told us to cease and desist and get out. We lost $10,000 renovating that property. Now the property, all was owed on it was $50,000. The courts went in, took the property, and divided, gave the 4 kids $2,500 a piece, and kept everything else. So they got $10,000 that I had to put in. They end up, and the courts paid the house off. Then whoever it was, it's a racket. It's a racket with Judge Bordeaux and everybody. I call names. It's a racket, and it needs to be investigated by the FBI, the GBI, and the Department of Justice, because they come in. This is how they're stealing our land through the back door. And so this house was worth all we owed was $50,000 left on it. Now it's worth over $200,000. And some real estate company who's all connected. If you go and do the follow the money and follow the paperwork, all of it is connected. But I wanted to tell y'all that story because what it is we have to be able to inform the
There you go.
Yeah, but our platform is one of the platforms where we're going to inform the people, and that's why I'm here, so that we can make sure that we are always informing the people.
Can I speak a little bit? So, and what you presented is definitely an issue that many are still grappling with, and I wanted to add to that. Another part of it in putting some responsibility back too on one of the biggest attractors we see in land laws is that lack of community that we used to have amongst each other. My family over in Bluffton owns, I would say this is the Black family that probably owns the largest concentration of property in Bluffton, upwards up to maybe 40, 50 acres, on one area. And their stories go back to, the acquisition of these properties, when Reconstruction came in and we acquired, people bought it. But I can finally remember sort of saying it was this, cousin who gave this person the money to get the $5 to buy all these acres, and we understood that. We're now in a time where we're not just victim of people stealing land, but the fact that we no longer are doing business and value each other. So it's like, you got enough property. Someone said to a cousin of mine, y'all got enough property. No, I'm not going to give you, I'm not going to sell this property that just became available to you. I'm going to sell it to somebody else. It doesn't look like us. And we're accepting that and not realizing that when you do that, you literally adulterate now the climate of community, because who you're bringing in isn't us. Doesn't hold those same values. So some of the things that, we're fond of, people who might want to burn trash in the yard because they're raking their leaves, or you have a family reunion and the music is going. Now you have people calling and saying, well, he's burning trash too close to my house, or the music is too loud. And now you have people coming in and interrupting the way of life. So it's like we have to understand and get back to that we can help preserve land by going back to doing business with each other and holding on to it. And not just, looking at the instance of those who are going to come and take it, because that's always going to be a battle, and the attraction of it. So we also can stand up and say, we're going to make sure that we're not doing business with each other. Because we hold those deeds when it's not theirs property. We own those properties outright with clear titles, and at the time, many of us just are not giving the opportunities to other people, other natives, to come in and be able to purchase it.
And we are here, just to let y'all know, we're at Two Chefs Gullah Geechee Restaurant here in Savannah, Georgia, 2007 MLK Jr. Boulevard. And the great Taylor Moreleo of Washington, she has indicated that if we want food, we can have food. That's what she's indicated. That's why we're going to eat. Gullah needs to eat, so we're going to eat. Because if somebody wants some food, she's right here to make it happen. But gotta throw something out there to you. Gullah Geechee Africans, Gullah Geechee people, we are the first in mass black landowners in this country. Gullah Geechee people, our ancestors are the first in mass black landowners in the entire United States. So again, we took from 1862, we are now amassing land ownership. But in some cases, we're now losing it. And now Judas Hall shared something. Let you all know in Chatham County, at the tax auction that took place on last Tuesday, what occurred out of the 170 odd properties, 90% of them were on the west side of the city of Savannah. That's why we're here right now. On the west side of the city of Savannah, 90% of the properties were on the west side out of that 170. And we were the majority of the people losing the properties. We were the majority of them. And that's what transpired on last Tuesday. And so that's when the councilman said to me back in May, we need to have a conversation about this. That's what we're here right now. And what she threw up, when she brought up that you can't burn trash anymore when you don't want to sell a property to a Robert Brown, to a Randy Portman, or to a Fakita Aiken, or to a Anita Collins. You can't do some of the things you used to do. And so I'm going to just throw something out and we're going to flow into it. And again, we just want to find out if those who are in the state of Georgia, you have something that we call a homestead exemption. You need to apply for the homestead exemption. For those of you for 2024, you're going to need to do it next year. You need to do it. You can't do it now, but you do it next year. And something else comes into play. Stevens Day. Some of us have tried to use the excuse saying that they're building this mansion next to my house, but then you can use the Stevens Day exemption. Then now, bam, lock it in. So what if the value is right now, 2023, it'll still be the same value, even when you got that mansion coming next door to you. And something else, and I had to bring the brochure just to let you all know, and there's something else that comes into play. If you are disabled, there's something that in the state of Georgia, it's called school disability. School disability. And one thing, you got to get a statement from a physician saying you are disabled to work. Bam, you'll stop. And so that comes into play that we have exemptions that we are not using and people not telling us about. And so I just want to throw it out there to any of you to have that conversation. Like, in other parts of Georgia, what are some things that people are using to basically decrease their property taxes? Because we're going to get in Florida and some of it, but that's something that many people are afraid of, the value, the assessment of these properties. So anybody got any thoughts? South Carolina, Georgia?
Let me add this, and this is important, especially when we talk about people who are in fixed income, especially in districts like the 1st and 5th district in Savannah, where we have a lot of people who are teachers, retired, medical bills, this bill, light bill going on, water bill going on. In my particular case, it's personal to me. I have a mother who's 92 years old, and her husband left the house, but she's with Alzheimer's and a broken hip. So how in the world is she going to pay all these increasing taxes? Is what Dr. Teray just said. You got to be educated. And I love Dr. Sonia Jackson for educating our community, because now what happens because of the Alzheimer's, she's disabled. So now she has full exemption on property tax going forward. But we don't know that. And people are like, why don't you go read it? It's not about we don't read. We aren't given the same resources and information as other communities. You want me to hold this brother accountable, but the sister over here got the information before him and holding the information because it'll help my community develop well. Well, this brother don't know where to go look in the first place. Access. That's the word I'm looking for. Access to information. So it's not about we don't want it or I can't go get it. How do I even access information?
And in South Carolina, how do we deal with some of that? Because again, people use that fear.
Right. So in South Carolina, there are a lot of different things that people can tap into. One is we have homestead exemption too. Ours, though, is age, is based on age. So if you're 65 and over, you're able to get homestead exemption. It's not something that's automatically triggered. You have to go in and make that request, and then they'll put that into your property assessment. They also have a 4%, 6% ratio that we educate people on. And the 4% ratio gives you that reduced rate because it treats you as being a primary resident and not one that would be triggered, for instance, if a person is a tourist who just bought a second home, and that reduces your property taxes significantly. Beaufort County in South Carolina also instituted a payment plan option. So you can start paying on your property as soon as the bill comes out, which we did ours in November, leading into the previous year, and you have until typically September, to work on that payment plan, and that's something that a lot of people have been able to take advantage of, because for us, property values are reassessed every 5 years, and we are in the 5th year of that reassessment. And what happens is those who've had their homes for a certain amount of time under a certain income threshold automatically get locked in to not be victim of the homes that have been built around them. And we have property that have now sold for $1 million, $2 million right next to, let's say, my for instance, home that's been there since the 50s, but they will not be affected by that because of something that was already built in. But one thing that they admonished when we spoke with the assessor's office is if someone dies, for instance, and they haven't transferred that property into a relative's name, and they just sell it to someone else, then those exemptions go away. Whatever exemptions were on that property before they had it locked in a lower rate go away. So that's another thing, as you mentioned, Dr. Roberts, about education. They were saying if you can transfer it over into a child's name, a cousin's name, or what have you, do that, because that's how you're able to keep those exemptions.
Yeah, and adding to that, I know there's a lot of Vietnam veterans that have property, and military veterans, they have exemptions as well. If they're disabled, they have a higher rate. Also, what I was looking into was they have there was an issue in Monteith where land of the promised land was being threatened. So me, Jazz, and Dr. Jamal here, I was just looking up the properties around that area where white families own maybe 100, 200 acres of land, but the promised land that's only like 30 acres is paying higher taxes than the 100 and 200. But what I end up finding out is, which anyone could research, I'm not like a tax guru, but it's an application you file with the city to ensure that it's just woodland, like they can't do nothing on for a certain amount of time with that land. But you could ask for, just say, out of 160 acres to just to stay at woodland for a 10-year period, but they give you a tax break, which is significant because the promised land with 31 acres was paying like maybe $2,000 a year, but here this guy, white family, got 200 acres and only paying $500 a year. So those informations are out there as well if you're a mass landholder.
And that's something too. Glad you brought that up. South Carolina has that also, and they have, I think the minimum is only 10 acres. And so if you have 10 acres, it's called agri-land exemption.
That's it.
And you can't build on more than 50%. So you can develop 50% of it as long as you leave the other 5 acres like untouched. You get that exemption. And one guy was like, his family on St. Helena, when they found out about it, took advantage, and they went from paying like $5,000 a year to like $500 for it. Yeah.
And that's why we're here, because again, we know, and we've said this and personally, and some of our families, that's what they're engaged in, because we have land on Hilton Head that we have pine trees on the land, but then also we do farming. And so that plays a role. With regard to that, we know that some of you all need to hear this. Some of y'all need to be aware of it, and just like Randy said, it's just merely doing an application. Some people, it can be done with the city, or ultimately done with the tax commissioner's office, and they go and assess it, and then guess what? It brings down the property. And now it gets to a point where some of y'all might say, okay, why do you bring this up? Because now it gets to a point about the next topic now that we brought out there to you about when y'all sell the land. Some people say they sell the land because the taxes are too high. But never did they take advantage of some of the exemptions that are right there. And that's why I was glad that they brought it up with regard to the agricultural aspect of that. And so now it comes down to don't sell or lease the land. So again, don't sell, don't ask. And so now, what's your feelings, your sentiments with regard to people selling land, selling properties? And when we say selling properties, selling out communities also. What's your thoughts and your views with regard to that and about leasing? Anyway, I'll just throw it out.
Well, the thing is, land is going to be capital for the rest of eternity. Whenever you have land, you have value. you own something, you have value. Just like I tell people, I got a ring of keys over there. A whole ring of keys. You mind giving them to me real quick, Randy? Let me show y'all the reason. And I'm just demonstrating something. You see these keys? Everybody say it's 2023. Why you got so many keys?
Right, that's like the custodian key ring, you guys.
Yeah. I know it's 4 cards out there. I'm getting 7 of them. But I can open something. I can open something with this. It's 5 or 6 houses I have access to. This is tangible. I can go in. People say, I don't care. I said, because you don't own anything.
Right.
I own things that sometimes I don't have to go back home and get a key. Because I don't know what car I might be in. So I got to carry them all with me so I can get in. I can get into something. And that's the same thing. What I'm demonstrating is that you have to have that property. As long as you own that property, you have something. Money in the bank, one day you're going to spend it. But as long as you got that property, it's something that you can have generational wealth that you can pass down to your children and grandchildren and everybody else. That's all I was doing.
Yeah, I agree. But I believe every family has a right to do whatever they want with their land because I don't know their situation. But I could refer to what the councilwoman said. At least let's work with each other first.
Right.
I'm sure there's developers and real estate agents that's our own, that we keep it within ourselves. But at the same time, these development real estate people that's our own have to do right by us as well, right? And at the same time, if you do decide to sell, just if you sell 10 acres for $200,000, reinvest. You could go to Sylvania, you could go far out to Georgia, and for $100,000, you might could get 30, 40 acres, and just keep making more and more and more. It can happen that way, but I'm glad this platform is happening, and I hope that people that are listening are taking certain information like this or reaching back to you, Dr. Toure, and trying to find out resources that we do have amongst ourselves instead of just being home thinking like it's a lost cause. We defeated, and we just got to go with this white man because he's scared.
All right, I think we're good. I'll go back, y'all. But if I could add to your piece there, it's not just also working with developers, but contractors. So, for example, I'm hoping that my family members and I can do some land acquisition, property acquisition. But when I get that property, somebody got to fix it up when it's renovated, right? And so, and this is a shout out to our contractors that look like us, but at the same time, we said keep paying. You got to do right. I can't hire you and it's taking you a week long to do a job, or you're not communicating, or you're not billing me correctly, or you're not invoicing. And I'm not saying that we're all not organized, but we've got to work with our small businesses, our small contractors who may not have a skill set and say, hey, what you do at this particular position work for me. If you're not going to do it well, I'm going to refer you. But if you do it really well, I'm going to refer you to my system here in Bluffton. So we've got to work hand in hand. I think I said hand in hand.
And I also touched on that too. For me, you brought up a good point that everyone definitely should have that liberty to sell their properties as they should. I look at that with one contingency is as long as it's a property that you're disconnected to, because I see taking that money and being able to utilize it somewhere else and reinvesting. But I'm adverse when it's property that people are connected to, and it's what we're battling with over in Bluffton, and just bringing that cultural component. We have two groups. We have a group like myself, born and raised in the area, and even after college, as we went off, we still have that presence from being born here. I'm an 80s baby, but was raised by some real old school grandparents, some we're talking they farm on about 6 to 7 acres of land. Every fruit, vegetable you could imagine. We were feeding slop to pigs. We had chickens. The necks would be cut off, be boiled, feathered, and fried. In a matter of minutes. You shucking oysters. You had shrimp. You doing all of that by the time you're 6 and 7. And so the value that you have in the property isn't just property when you connect it. It's like it's home. You can walk there and feel that presence. But then you also have people who were part of that great migration. They left, bluffed in, and have no connection to it. May have inherited the land, and so for them it's like we'll sell. And I've watched like the selling of property where our presence was once 80% in Beaufort County. We're now down to 8%. And it's like the more that, those instances happen, the more that people lose that connection. It's not just the property they're taking, it's like you're taking a history. You're taking the connection that we all have to it. So there is no economic footprint. There is no, preservation. There is no sustainability of the culture to be passed down to generations, because the one thing that we did have control over, because you no longer value or see that connection, don't want to be there. And it's kind of like, I think of those who fought so hard to acquire those lands in the late 1700s, early 1800s, never imagined the day that it would have been sold. They bought it with the little that they had because they knew that this is my state. Somebody could drive down that road and say, over there, those are the Frasers, those are the Pinckneys. Because if somebody falls on hard times, you could pull a trailer there, you could build a house, and they would always have. And once that goes away, then we start to see families leaving in the masses like, I'm no longer here, I don't see myself, I'm gonna move to Atlanta, I'm gonna move to wherever, and find that identity all over again. It's like we could harness it here, lease it, look at other options, try to work with other people, but if it is a situation, we don't know what people are going through. So if it is a situation where family doesn't have a choice, then once they've exhausted all options, I respect the decision to do what they do, but at least give it consideration first to try to go another route.
If I could add one small piece to what you just said, we've got to start telling those stories.
Yeah.
All right, we're back, y'all. Just, bear with us. But we've got to start being storytellers again and telling our stories. What Keisha said was exactly right. Is like my father would tell me, my father built the home we're in now. My father built that home. He wired the home. He poured the foundation. He laid the bricks. And he passed that to October, but we've talked enough to know that his desire for me and for our family is to always keep that family in the family. So I don't have any children of my own, but I've already told my nephews and cousins that the Bryant family will keep this house. And I'm going to split them all with a number of people because not that I don't trust them, but I'm going to have a safeguard that y'all can't do anything but work together with this.
I couldn't trust even his, your story. Like that's a story that not many people have that knowledge and that ownership over, to be connected to a name that's so popular in the area, but to be able to say like we're fighting for that, we're coming for what's ours. Like we're not just gonna just sit in that kind of victimization that some people do. It's like nah, our bodies were bartered for that property. Like we coming for it too.
What we're gonna do, because since this is what I'm telling that we gotta take a commercial break. We're gonna do a commercial break. We'll come right back, continue the conversation because some things that were said that actually this flowed in to what the next conversation is going to be about, and that was with regard to generational wealth and reparations. But then some people threw some other things out. We're going to then follow that up afterwards with regard to heirs property issues that we see going on in cities, coastal towns, and also on the islands. Until that, we'll be right back. Don't sell black land. Saving black land, saving black property, saving black communities. Brother Jamal. And so we've been talking about black land, saving black communities, saving black neighborhoods, because it's essential. And there's an element that has come into play, and it's always right there with all, we talk about land, Julius brought it up, and then Randy talked about it, and Bridget, Councilwoman Bridget talked about it, Dr. Brian talked about it, and all of it is still tied to money. It is tied to wealth. Generational wealth, that's what we're talking about right now, generational wealth, and what does that mean to you, and how does that come into view? Because, well, I'll just give you all some background. I tell folks, when we talk about reparations for Gullah Geechee people, black folks in this area, it is tied to land. It is tied to land, it is tied to water, it is tied to the air. For us, that reparations for us is not just say some dollars or something like that solely, but reparations is tied to the very soil that our ancestors are connected to, the waterways they're connected to, and the air they're connected to. And so I got to do this, I got to just go and throw it on out there. Brother Randy Porter, what's your thoughts with regards to that guy coming to you? Because you've been doing some of his work.
Oh wow. Yeah, generational wealth. We still working on that, right? I'm not wealthy, so my family's not wealthy, but we trying to through this heirs property. Let me discuss that case a little bit. I'm not even gonna get into it, but it just leads to the portion of reparations. We had this 10 acres of land. My grandfather at 74 went to, found out that this land was being auctioned by the city because of non-tax payments. So he found out that information from his cousin, went to the city probate office and said, hey, look, I'm gonna pay this taxes, but I want to become an executive. So now he had to dispute his cousin that was actually the tax papers was going to. And I'm saying tax papers going to because it's a cloudy title. Mm-hmm. Just because you're getting taxes sent to you, that doesn't mean it's clear outright title. Okay, so let's get that clear out the way. So then she gets a lawyer, he gets a lawyer, they end up disputing, they don't agree. So now the special master, not even the judge, let's think about this name, the special master that the judge appoints to make this decision, says, well, if there's a family dispute, I'm going to assign an executive, which is a lawyer that he wants to appoint. So sometimes going into the probate office, you got to really dig because these things are happening. You don't even know this law firm is an executive of your land, but you're paying taxes.
It's the same law firm from the last 100 years.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. They call them guardian ad litem for the younger kids. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So leading to reparations. So 2019 come along. I'm getting ready to retire up on me. I'm like, hey, look, what I'm going to do now. This family member, Sarah Eisner, great lady. You know what I mean? Like, she opened the door. She had a conscience to say, hey, my family did wrong. I want to make it right. I want to try to find the names of the enslaved people that's local. The only person she was able to find was the Quarterman family, which we ended up holding on to this land. But her opening that door led to more questions that I had to ask that never was asked. Who's Leona? Who's the Jacksons? You know what I mean? Like, because from early 1900s, it's so much that goes on that we have no idea about it. Sometimes within the family cousins distant, we know they're our cousins, but why are we not talking to them? These stories don't happen until something comes up where, oh, we got land. You get what I'm saying? So now trying to keep that intact is a challenge itself for me, but at the same time, it's just to try to, like how we do now, save black land. That's what I forget what happened before within our own community or within our own family. Let's come together and beat this cause that we've been oppressed by so long. So what we do with the reparation project, we fund the PAFN, we fund Low Country Gullah to ensure that land that is being auctioned because of non-payment taxes, we give them annual grants to ensure that they can cover a certain amount of families. Right? So with Miss Teresa White and Miss Luana Gray Sellers, we do that as far as black land preservation.
Right? Anyone else got thoughts about, we talk generational wealth, and we say it's time to land, and we say village to people, and per Queen Quay, just like she's joining us, she's viewing us right now. She's going to be part of the final culmination of this, which we're going to be doing up in South Carolina. That again, we're the first in mass black land owners in this country right here, going to the 1860s and 1862. And so anyone else thoughts with regard to generational wealth, how it's connected to land, how it falls, essentially it is part of reparations, no matter how we try to ignore it. I think all of us got to understand reparations are important for us, especially from North Carolina down to Florida.
And this is an important conversation that we need to have, because while we're advocating for and waiting on reparations, we need to also, and it starts here in this room, it starts wherever there's conversations like this being taken place. We need to make sure that we're also uniting our people. Because see, we don't make nothing, we buy. And we don't sell anything either. Too much that we make. We don't sell anything we make, except for food. We don't make food. It comes from other companies. We just prepare. But what I'm saying is that we have to start now pooling our resources, pooling our intellect, pooling our monies so that we can build together. That's what everybody else on this planet do, except black people. We don't do it in the numbers that we should. There are too many rich celebrities. There are too many rich business owners, black business owners and black celebrities to start the educational foundations, to start these little entrepreneur centers, so that we can teach our kids how to be financially astute. It's a lot of things that we need to do, and these are just conversations when we start now that we need to be able to get into, because it just don't start with just reparations. We can't wait on anybody. Don't wait on nobody. Start doing it ourselves today, and then we keep fighting for what we deserve and what we're owed. And that's just my thought.
And then going back on what you just said, a part of it is, going back to Dr. Roberts, is because we're not telling these stories enough. We need to get back to telling our stories, because in that we've become so disconnected that if anyone wanted to talk about starting a revolution, we can't, because we don't own anything in the sense of have complete ownership, but we do have people operating in various respects in every entity. There's a brother out in South Carolina that processes his own pigs and chickens and all that other stuff, and poultry that goes out to different markets. There's people with their own farms, producing rice and harvesting all this other stuff, people making bread. But it's until we go back to where we were at a place where we really believe community, and whether it's sharing land amongst each other, selling land amongst each other, selling our products and services amongst each other, until we get back to where we see the value in that, these conversations kind of started in with the people who are already, as they say, preachers to the choir. It's we have to take this. These conversations should be a reflection of conversations happening in every city across this country of people from the African diaspora, and kind of it should be a national unity around this. It should be a global one around it, because unlike any other culture, our existence is tethered to us. I'm not gonna make it if you don't make it. I can't thrive if you're not thriving. That's how we work. And when we go back to looking at us during the segregation time, when we didn't even have access to the stuff we did, our economic footprint was higher. Our land ownership was higher. That just everything. We work amongst each other. At the plumber you called, the electrician you called, the store that you went and bought clothes from, the person that was gonna hire your daughter, everything. We gained community then, and it's now that we're out of that, it's kind of like community just went down the drain. Like we forgot how we used to work with each other. So it's like we can acquire more, but with that comes a responsibility that we should still be looking out for each other. Because I want to see you succeed. I want you to succeed, kind of thing. And so it's like without doing that, then it's like I'll sell the land. I don't need to do business with you because I can go here. I'll sell this. I'll go buy something over there. Like it doesn't mean anything to me, but it impacts all of us. Because on the street where you went out of town, Miss So and So will watch your house, and the minute somebody who wasn't supposed to be there, is you go get a phone call. We go in neighborhoods now. One that I grew up in was called Old Town Bluffton, and their neighbors who come out the house and want to speak to you. You throw a party and the music, it wouldn't even be loud. Cops coming, and the cop will come out and say, well, music really isn't loud, but they're going to keep calling, go ahead and turn it down. And, just little things like that you take away, you really erase, that sense of culture and community when you think of things like that. That's why having these conversations with each other and trying to preserve it is so important.
We have someone who called in to checking things out, and so she had to interject. Queen Quet is on the phone with us, so Shalom, yes ma'am.
It's not gonna work.
All right, thank you, Queen Quet. And again, what's going to happen will be the last part is going to have Councilman Bridget Frazier, Chef, author, historian B.J. Dennis, and myself, and Queen Quet having a conversation and getting a little bit more down and dirty about it because we don't want to have y'all upset. But I got through this out here right now. When we talk about Ayers property, talk about property that's owned in Dixon Park, which was a middle-income black neighborhood. And so, and as Councilwoman Frazier talked about, people who were born here who now move away. So now they have an interest in the property that was owned by their grandmama or their granddaddy or their uncle or their aunt. They now have an interest in the property, but they're no longer here. And like I said, middle-income black neighborhood, people who have children of integration or desegregation, they have not gotten a lot of money. They got education, they got degrees and all of that. But then you have the person that's over there on Monty Road who's acquired some property, or the person that's on Squire Pope or on Gum Street, or the person down on James Island, or the person on Amelia Island, the person that's in Orange on Moncrief who now acquired this property, and they are no longer here. And it's the people who've been here who now are forced to sell the property. Heirs property issues. What are the heirs property issues that you all have witnessed and seen? Because that transformed and changed our community. And people are no longer concerned, because I can say personally, some of y'all know that I have 2 stories where we have people no longer, who have never been here in South Carolina, not on Hilton Head, who are now forced to sell a waterfront property and now marshfront property. That's personally my own family. And these are people who have never been here, who even their family ties are questionable. But Randy talked about that people saying that they're family members, but in fact, they're not family members. Somebody else is their father. So I'm just putting it out there. It's not anything that I've heard from anyone about that. So what have y'all seen, and what are the dilemmas regarding heirs property?
I'll speak to that. My family just went through a situation similar with let's talk about here. I think one of the biggest things that we don't focus on is that education component. A lot of times when someone dies, many of us don't go through probate. We just leave it to be whatever, and it's like probate is definitely a deep, dark rabbit hole that if you don't do something with it, the state and other entities come in, and then things just continue to get convoluted from one generation to the next, and it becomes just this twisted web of it becomes financially impossible to try to make clear. You got to bring in all types of legal things just to clear it up, and it's like, if we can get into the habit of, one, making sure estates go through probate, whether you feel it's worth it or not, and making sure that people have, these living will and testaments, and they have wills and other things to make it easier for future generations. But my family just went through trying to get a clear title on 10 acres. And the land was deeded to my grandmother, and the land went down to each of her kids having it in their names, and then there were family members who've been living, on the land. And, the sense of family, they're family, so you don't really go against it. But then, so my aunts and uncles started to say, well, there's gonna come a time when we're not gonna be here. Future generations, our kids are gonna need to have a place too. Well, you can't just go and move people without having that cleared up. So then it was, we had to get a lawyer, and you have to put out an advertisement in the paper, giving everybody an opportunity to say if they have interest or ownership in it. And then a judge has to make that decision. And, there are people who came up with all kinds of stuff and stories that weren't true. And it was a waiting game. Like, it's not overnight. Like, it took 3 years to get to the place of it being cleared, everyone getting the property outright. And this first year, we got tax bill and everything, but in everyone's name. This first year we got it. But it's definitely something worth doing now to get a clear title, because it starts out as heirs, but the closer people can work to try to establish, that clear understanding of who's who, if you can cut it up to say, okay, we have 15 acres and it's however many of us, we don't just have to keep it 15 acres and whoever's name, while we can work to do it now, let's do that, because each time somebody dies, it splits. It's kind of like that atom that just keeps getting split. And the more it's split, the more headache it can have, so you have to go through. So it's easier if you can do it right now, because in 8 people name, do that. Because if one of those 8 dies, and let's say that 8 has 10 kids, now you have 18 people, at the table. And each time somebody goes, so try to get it cleared as soon as you can.
And if I'll just throw this out there, this is something that our tax commissioner here in Savannah and Chatham County, which y'all know, and she's Bella Geechee. She's the first one. Sonia Jackson, what she discussed also on last week, she discussed that we need to get our wills together. She said we need to get wills together. So when you're saying that, I was going to throw that out. She said get the wills together so that way we don't have this quagmire issues, and that plays a role about the loss of our communities. So,
yeah. And if I may add, I want to go back to this idea of access. And we can Bridget, you're talking exactly right. I don't go through this process now, so it's important to me to tell people this. We've got to be mindful too that as a community, we've got to develop this access to resources, right? Mm-hmm. When you talk about attorney fees, I want to show people what's realistic. When you have a will, that costs money, right? You have an estate, that costs money. Oh, by the way, and I'm gonna tell you something personal to me, if you don't have a certain credit score, you become an executor of a state, or now you become a guardian and a conservator,
right,
to a relative, If you don't have a certain credit score, you're not going to be the conservator, which then goes back to Julius' say they appoint a conservator. Guess what happens? They don't look like us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as we were talking earlier, it took me in my thing off my head. The conservator asked me a question this week for some information. I was like, why you didn't need it? And so they're not answering me. But anyway, every time a lawyer shows up, you're paying money.
Yeah.
So you're looking at $2,000-3,000 off the rip. So how I don't want to change the conversation, but making sure we also
conversation. That's right.
yeah, so now we've also got to find out, longshoremen and faith community and folks who got resources. I'm not even going to complain, but we've got to put a side pot of money aside. Those who have, who are not hurting, put a little money in that pot so that we have families who are not access the low-wealth communities can participate in the game. If I don't have a resource, how am I going to come to a football game and I don't have football? How are we going to play?
Right.
Okay? How am I going to go play in the SEC if I don't have pads? I'm going to lose every time.
Every time, what we need to do in those instances is hold people accountable and use resources when we can.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak to what's here, but in Bluffton, I chair the Bluffton MLK committee, and we have all types of partners. And one is a shout out to Low Country Legal Aid. They're retired lawyers who offer their services for free. And we've had people go through many instances that could tap into them and not have that worry. But we also brought them in for a free will workshop. Literally, you came to that workshop, no questions asked. You walked out with the will, and not just that, it's how to complete it. What do you need? What are the signatures you need to come back with? And we'll get it notarized for you. And what happens a lot of times, people scoff at that. I don't need no will, and we're like, listen, regardless of age, everybody needs a will. Even if you feel you don't, because you don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow. But it's kind of like when we have people who want to help, and when we say, if you say that you want to help and you believe in equity in the community, this is what we need specifically. And when we bring those people to the table, our community has a responsibility now to use it, because we now have a chance to be able to take those barriers away, whereas before we could say, well, we don't have the fees, we don't have this, we don't have that. When we have it, now people need to show up and use it, because we want to keep holding people accountable. We want to keep people who want to say, well, how can I help, how can I help? We want to keep directing them, but we have to be able to utilize it too, because like you said, it's impossible, to navigate that. And those of us with the education, I don't have the legal expertise, so, I'm gonna have to take whatever the advice of what they're saying.
Like, for example, what's the letter of testament? And all that stuff. When you get deep into the weeds, you're like,
And people get intimidated.
Right. This is.
Well, it goes right back to they created this to block us out.
Yeah.
They created this to put obstacles in our way so that they can acquire our land.
Yeah.
It is a systematic, what do you call it? It's a diabolical plan.
Yeah, take over.
I'm serious. The lawyers, you need a credit score for me to be the conservator for
For
some
my mom.
property
Yeah.
for my mom.
And I've been
I need
doing
a credit score. No, this is the obstacles that they put in the way. But see, it all boils right back down to one thing. One thing. You better go vote.
Yeah.
And you need to put the people in place that's going to put the policies in place that's going to change how all this is done.
That's right.
Because if you don't, then they continue to control you.
That's right. That
Your vote
controls.
It is.
And so this heirs property matter, just to share this with y'all and people who are listening, looking at the show, we have Willie Hayward that's in South Carolina, and he's done work with Queen Quet. And Queen Quet, I'm going to let you share about that, what they need to do to at least get that reference or get that initial free consultation with Willie Hayward with regards to them now, especially with involving heirs property. And you say you have a will case, so we'll let you go ahead and do that right now.
Everybody get the time to get their pens and paper out or their iPads or whatever before I give out Lily's information. That's how you can reach him and get a consultation with him. But I want to give an example of something I just found out about. It's less than a week, it's just a few days ago. I visited Georgetown and found out that one of our Village families inherited not just some property, but a business. Now, prior to the elder who had remained in the family they actually are those that practice in land law, because not every attorney does. They specialize just like doctors do. So that leads to why I'm giving you the name and the contact information for someone we have vetted who is a data delegate who is consistently or successfully for delegating property in court. And there is the Heirs Property Law Firm. You can go to heirspropertylawfirm.com, which is run by attorney Willie Hayes. His phone number is 843-225-8754. All right, 843-225-8754. But he has done a program. He did an episode of WTTV. It is on YouTube. You can either go straight to YouTube or go to WTTV. There is no INE for the week. And put in Queen Quest Willie Hayward or Queen Quest Heirs Property. When you watch that entire episode, it will give you an outline of the various things that you need to do in order to sustain the ownership of the scale. When you get to the end, it will give you details about contacting him for the consultation. I highly recommend you watch that video first before you go calling the phone number I gave out. And also to share that video with your family members, with your sorors, with your craft brothers, with any and everybody who you know has their property here in the South, and in particular in the Delegation Nation. There are critical things to that. And I heard you all mention various things about cousins that you might have never known and never got to talk to until they found out who there's some land, or cousins who you ain't even sure they really come. They just pop up all of a sudden after people die. Okay, it's critical that one of the first things that I've learned and worked with many attorneys about heirs property is it first starts with the family. If the family can talk to one another and come to some agreement and make sure you have an accurate family tree and everything, that goes a long way. And then you can start to establish things like LLCs. So there's also an episode of WTTV about forming your LLC for your family. So there's LLCs, there's trusts, there's various mechanisms and tools that can make sure that you put these things in a way that you don't just keep getting the failed years, as I say, or someone else who's random to come in and cause an entire family of what we constitute as property. So I just wanted to give you all a little example that horrifies me recently because an actual attorney misled a family. So don't think that there are all good attorneys out there, because they're not all good attorneys. And some will even tell you this is not my field of practice, and they won't say, maybe not, they won't say it simply because they want to make some money. But that means that they leave your family out, so that family pays to get into land. So I wanted to make sure I share that in the midst of all of this, so that you're well aware that you can ask for a second opinion and third opinion. So please go to Willie Hayward at first, at least get a consultation, and then go and check elsewhere. So you find someone that you're comfortable working with. But it all starts working with the family and being comfortable talking to them and put together a succession plan for the family, so that then the land can be home to generations and generations.
All right, thank you, Queen. Now, so we're coming down to the latter part of this part one. So the question is coming down to, how do we preserve communities? How do we preserve neighborhoods? How do we preserve communities? How do we preserve and maintain land ownership? And throwing it out there, and I'm throwing that in such a combination, how do we preserve our communities? How to preserve us still owning the land? And what does that have to do with your thoughts with regard to developing a master plan? You know, just throwing it out there, because again, I want everyone because I think people tend to not realize it's all connected. That people don't realize that it's the same issue on an island, in a coastal town, in a small city, in a large city, from St. Augustine up to Onslow County, North Carolina. It's the same issues, and we deal with all of it. So the issue on Sapelo and Hilton Head is the same issue that we have in Dixon Park and Calabrowns, where we are right now. Again, we have Two Chefs Restaurant here at 2007 MLK Junior Boulevard. So how do we look at creating this master plan for preservation? How do we preserve our communities? And just throwing it out there to you, anyone that wants to talk about that.
I think this is the first step, and that's having the conversation. I think going back to, I'm an educator by trade. I think education is a huge piece. You know, when people are, if we go back in history, when people are educated, they don't have the knowledge. You can't. If you go all the way back to, if we look down at Ron DeSantis, there's a reason why they want to take our education away from us. Because the Bible will tell you what you come from, and how royal you are, and how smart you are, and how advanced you are. You won't have a self-identity to understand why you are smarter than these other children that don't look like you in the classroom, right? And so what I do is feed them medication. So we must be educated and we understand, then we can mobilize and we can move and we can start doing other things.
Okay. All right, so we're saying education. So now give me some other things, because I want the people out there now, because this is a starting point for them now to understand, because some of them feel lost with regards to their communities, because they think they got a zoning issue, they got an interstate highway system coming through, they got a millionaire building up a residence next to them. So what are some of the things we can do with regards to helping people out there now begin to step that forward step with regards to preserving their communities and creating a master plan, even not necessarily a master plan per se, that they are now creating something to keep their communities in their hands, to keep that black land in their hands, keep their neighborhoods in their hands.
And you know, as Dr. Robert said, is education, going back to something that Dr. Hall mentioned also, in saying that we have to vote. It's kind of like we have been losing at a game of chess for the longest. And everyone's complaining about, you know, this game that they know they want to play. We can't change rules. The game in this in America is always going to be tied to policy. It's always going to be tied to some type of voting, whether it's through election, through appointment, and you cannot be in the game without learning the mastery of it and navigating it. And we have to start playing the game. And in communities, people can create policies, like how some towns are now talking about, you know, creating Gullah overlay districts that specifically speak to our issues. You know, and being here and having that presence, you know, our folks should be able to put businesses on their reins. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it, because we can't afford to go down and buy commercial property in Bluffton and Hilton Head and Savannah. But we own land still, so why can't we manipulate our land in a way that's going to benefit us, as other people have? You know, we can say, well, whatever density that other people have on their properties, we've operated in Kundas. So whereas this person is only allowed to put 2 structures up, well, we're looking at it from a family compound component, so we should be able to put up 5 structures, but you can't have that without the policy to make it happen. And so we can argue all day, but it's right, they should do it. Nobody's gonna do anything for us that we don't do for ourselves. And we can't just go in and ask, we gotta start creating the ways to make this a reality, and it needs to be a secular thing. So we created in Beaufort County, we created in Chatham County, it should be created in Horry County, and once we have that universal web in the same way that the Native Americans have, then it's of no knowledge that they don't pay taxes on their land. Because they advocated for that. We're indigenous here.
That's right.
But we don't have any of those protections. And without having those protections, people are going to continue to fall victim. People are going to continue to be prey of a system that is working perfectly. The system was created to do what it's doing now, and it's us going in and dismantling the system and creating these spaces of equities where our culture is going to thrive. But it starts at policy, and not voting does not help. That's been the greatest trick of our opponent, planting the seed that voting is rigged, that it doesn't matter, it doesn't impact the food we eat, the speed that we drive on the highways, the clothes that we wear, the schools our kids go to. Everything starts at the voting booth. The lawyer who's going to be appointed over that conservatorship, the treasurer who's going to be elected into that office that's assessing you. All this thing comes back to voting, and they would not pump billions into a system that they felt didn't work. But they trick us. They spend billions to tell us it doesn't work to keep us out. We are one of the largest voting blocks in every election, but we have to now start voting intentionally to our benefit, because our communities need it. So that, for me, that's a way to save culture and several other things that we're combating.
All right. Anyone else here? Then we're going to end with Queen Claire because my family already contacted me now saying I'm supposed to be at this other place. But so anybody else here?
Yeah. The thing is, what we have to do, people see what they hear and they hear what they see. It sounds bad, but it is. We have to demonstrate to people. We cannot keep having meetings without action. I don't like meetings that there is no action after, because all you did was waste my time. Yeah, we got a little bit of information, but you wasted my time. We need, and I've been talking to, we need to demonstrate how this works so that people can say, okay, see, they instilled this atmosphere of distrust in our community. So we don't trust each other. I can't tell the four of y'all to give me $1,000. Come on, I'm finna put it in this plan so we can build generational wealth, but y'all ain't gonna trust it. They've instilled that in us. But you get 5 guys from the Jewish community, and each one of them will throw their money. You get 5 guys from the Indian community, they're gonna throw their money on the table right away. We have to demonstrate to these people how this works, so that they can say, "Oh, they did it. Hey, we can do it. They did it. We can do it." You know, and that. We don't do any of that in this community. And the ones that are doing it, the ones in those elitists here, they're not including us. It's generational wealth for their families only. And there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of us out here that's being left out. So yes, we have to demonstrate. We have to pool our money, pool our resources, pool our intellect, and get to the nitty gritty and get things done. That's all. That's the only way it's gonna work. That's the way we save. We've started the conversation. We have the platforms. Now we have to put it into action.
I hear education. I hear the communalism. I hear the demonstration of it. Randy, you got anything you want to toss into?
Just know your position. You know, sometimes your ancestors give you a position. Stay in that position. You know, don't try to go into Dr. Terray's position and critique what he's doing wrong. You ensure everybody has a role, all the way to the bottom. But you know, sometimes the ancestors give you a certain position. That's where it's at. Like I know within myself, it was put in a position where I could bring people together. I was good at that, networking and sharing my network. I don't try to step into the scholars because that's not where I am. I'm where I need to be. Stay right there and action that, like you were saying, just action that and push it forward. But take critique too.
Yes.
Constructive criticism and assess yourself. Don't get personal with it.
Yeah.
It's a bigger movement than just about you and your pride. It's a whole thing that goes. You got to go 10 generations from now. Just don't look at what you're gaining in your generation. Look at it from 10 generations from now, because that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's how they conquered the world. They looked at 100 generations from now. So that's how we need to put our mindset to.
All right. Know your role, and be honest about that. Be honest with yourself. That's what I'm hearing. So, Queen Quet, we got 2 more minutes, and so you had texted some things, so I'm going to let you go ahead and say to everyone, share the information, and let you'll be closing us out for the next 2 minutes.
So I'm glad y'all having this discussion. One of the things that people should participate in public hearings on the local, state, and federal level, because policies are made from input and from support. So that's what I want to share as well in terms of what you guys have to say about what is needed to create this overall plan to go forward.
All right. And this has been part 1. The next one, we're going to have DJ Dennis, Peter Aiken, and then we'll be closing us out at some point in November with regards to this, because again, this is about generational wealth for all of us, for our communities, and saving our community. This is the start. And so we get some other things out there, and we will then provide the information. We'll post it also, information for Willie Hayward and the information that Queen Craig gave on what you need to do to get the free consultation. Because again, you all have heard the legal issues play a role in the quagmire of us losing our properties. So this is what the deal is. We come together having a conversation, and we'll continue this conversation. This is Run Tell That, our Black Media Network, and then we say to y'all share, 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 and we see y'all again. We're out of here. Peace and blessings. We had Brother Randy Quarterman. We had Dr. Robert Bryant. We had Councilwoman Bridget Frazier and President Julius Hall. Glad to have y'all. And we had Queen Quetta on the phone. She was so intrigued by the conversation. She had to come in. She just couldn't watch. She had to come in. And that's how important this matter is. So y'all, peace and blessings. I'll let y'all know this right now. And Savannah is the capital of the Gullah Geechee Nation.
Good night.
I like that.